Welcome to National Eyes. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. A seismic shift is underway in the global financial system, one that is quietly but powerfully reshaping the world as we know it. The old certainties are fading, and a new era is emerging, one that will redefine how nations interact, trade, and wield influence. This transformation isn't happening in the traditional power centers of New York or Washington, but in the rapidly rising capitals of Riyadh and Doha, where bold decisions are being made that will echo for generations. For the first time in half a century, the once unbreakable link between oil and the US dollar is beginning to fracture. The world's most traded commodity is no longer exclusively tied to a single currency, and that has profound implications. Saudi Arabia and Qatar, two of the world's energy giants, have joined the BRICS alliance and are now settling major oil and gas deals in Chinese yuan. This move marks a historic pivot away from the dollar, signaling a willingness to embrace new partners and new possibilities. This is far more than a simple currency swap. It's a bold declaration of a new, multipolar world order where economic power is shared and influence is no longer concentrated in the hands of a few. The petrodollar system, which for decades cemented American economic dominance and shaped global finance, is now being challenged. As China's influence grows and Middle Eastern nations diversify their alliances, the balance of power is shifting before our eyes. The consequences of this shift will ripple through every corner of the globe, impacting international trade, reshaping diplomatic relationships, and even affecting the prices you see at the gas pump and grocery store. For developing nations, this new landscape offers alternatives to a dollar-centric system, potentially granting them more autonomy and flexibility. For the West, however, it represents a direct challenge to decades of prosperity, stability, and global influence. The strategic dance between the United States, China, and the Gulf states has become the central drama of our time, with each nation maneuvering to secure its place in this rapidly evolving order. Around the world, people are watching with anticipation and uncertainty as a new economic era begins, one that will shape the future for generations to come. To truly understand the seismic shifts happening today, we need to rewind to the 1970s, a pivotal decade when the United States and Saudi Arabia forged a partnership that would shape the global economy for generations. The deal was simple but powerful. Oil, the world's most vital resource, would be priced exclusively in US dollars. In exchange, Saudi Arabia and other oil-rich nations agreed to invest their surplus oil revenues in US Treasury bonds and other American assets, funneling vast sums back into the US financial system. The United States, in turn, guaranteed military protection and unwavering political support for its Middle Eastern allies, cementing a relationship built on mutual benefit and strategic necessity. This arrangement, known as the petrodollar system, created a relentless global demand for the dollar. It transformed the greenback into the world's primary reserve currency, granting America what economists call an exorbitant privilege, the unique ability to borrow cheaply and influence global finance. The petrodollar system stabilized energy markets, fueled decades of economic growth, and allowed the US government to finance its deficits at low cost, reinforcing American economic dominance. For oil-producing nations, this system offered a sense of security and access to the world's most liquid financial markets, while also tying their fortunes to the stability of the US economy. For the United States, it became the bedrock of its global influence, enabling it to project power far beyond its borders and shape international trade on its own terms. Yet, over the decades, this dominance also sowed seeds of resentment and exposed vulnerabilities. Many nations began to chafe under a system that seemed to favor American interests above all else. Rising powers like China and Russia viewed the petrodollar as a tool for US sanctions and leverage, prompting them to seek alternatives and challenge the status quo. Even oil producers, once comfortable with the arrangement, grew increasingly wary of tying their economic futures so closely to US policy decisions and the dollar's fate. As global trade patterns shifted and new economic alliances emerged, the dollar's unchallenged reign began to appear less certain, and cracks in the old order started to show. The world was on the brink of transformation, and the stage was set for a new chapter in the story of global power and currency. Saudi Arabia and Qatar's entry into BRICS in early 2024 was years in the making, a strategic pivot, not a sudden move. China, now their biggest energy customer, made yuan-based trade a logical step. Volatile oil prices and OPEC Plus cuts pressured Gulf economies to diversify and seek new partners. Joining BRICS and settling some energy contracts in yuan was a hedge against over-reliance on the dollar and a single set of allies. Politically, it signaled a desire for greater autonomy and influence, not just as junior partners to the US. The initial yuan deals were small but symbolically immense, showing real commitment to de-dollarization. For China, it was a win for the yuan. For the Gulf, a bold step toward a new global role. China now imports over 11 million barrels of oil daily, much from Saudi Arabia and Qatar. In 2024, the first yuan-settled oil and gas deals were struck, covering a significant share of this trade. For Gulf exporters, accepting yuan secures long-term contracts and builds reserves for Chinese imports, reducing currency risk. This creates a closed-loop system, bypassing the dollar. While over 80% of global oil trade remains in dollars, even a 10–15% shift would have major effects. Massive long-term LNG deals, like Qatar's 27-year contract with Sinopec, now partly settled in yuan, create sustained demand for the Chinese currency. The dollar's dominance isn't over, but the foundation for a more diverse currency landscape is being laid. The process is slow, but the direction is clear. The US responded to the yuan challenge not with sanctions, but with a sweeping tech and investment blitz, signaling a new era of economic competition. Rather than closing doors, American policymakers opened new ones, leveraging innovation, capital, and strategic alliances to counter China's growing influence. In May 2025, the world watched as over $1 trillion in US tech, AI, and defense deals were secured with Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar. These agreements weren't just about business. They were about shaping the future of the global digital economy and redefining alliances in a rapidly changing world. The centerpiece of this initiative is a colossal AI campus in Abu Dhabi, powered by an unprecedented 5 gigawatts of energy, making it the largest AI project on the planet. This campus is designed to attract top talent, foster innovation, and serve as a hub for next-generation technologies across the region. These investments are not only dollar-denominated, but also managed by leading American companies, embedding US standards, cybersecurity protocols, and regulatory frameworks into the Gulf's digital infrastructure. This ensures that the region's technological backbone is closely aligned with American interests. By structuring these deals in dollars, the US creates fresh demand for its currency and forges deeper economic ties. The Gulf economies become more intertwined with American technology, finance, and expertise, reinforcing the dollar's global dominance. The US sweetens the deal by offering cutting-edge technology and lifting chip export restrictions, providing incentives and access to innovation that China simply can't match at this scale or speed. Gulf states can continue trading commodities like oil with China, but when it comes to building their digital future, they're choosing to partner with the West, where the most advanced technology and security guarantees reside. The US-Gulf relationship is evolving, shifting from the old model of energy for security to a dynamic, tech-driven partnership that promises shared prosperity and innovation. This strategy allows Gulf nations to balance lucrative trade with China, while anchoring their most ambitious, future-oriented projects firmly within the American sphere of influence. In a world that's increasingly multipolar, the US is playing a sophisticated long game, using technology, investment, and alliances to shape the next chapter of global power. The Gulf's yuan pivot and the US tech countermove are reshaping global politics and economics. Middle powers like Saudi Arabia and Qatar now hedge strategically, maintaining US security ties while deepening economic links with China. This challenges old alliances and forces both Washington and Beijing to compete with economic and tech offerings. The rise of a credible alternative to the petrodollar adds volatility to currency markets and could raise US borrowing costs over time. The US tech investment may spark a Gulf tech boom, creating jobs and making the region a digital hub. For Gulf societies, success and diversification is crucial for stability and future prosperity. Globally, this competition brings both opportunity and risk. Innovation may rise, but so could economic uncertainty. The Gulf is taking the lead in regional affairs, investing in new assets like Bitcoin ETFs and post-war reconstruction, signaling a profound transformation. Visuals make the shift clear. In 2023, a pie chart of global oil trade by currency is overwhelmingly blue for the dollar. By 2030, the dollar's share shrinks, with a new red slice for the yuan, 10 to 15% of global oil trade. Trade maps now show new energy routes from the Gulf to China, overlaying traditional paths to New York and London. A timeline marks the 1970s Petrodollar agreement, the 2023 BRICS invitation, the first yuan oil deals in 2024, and the $1 trillion US tech investment in 2025. This sequence shows disruption from the East and a massive American response. A side-by-side infographic: China offers guaranteed energy demand and yuan-based trade. The US offers cutting-edge tech and dollar investment. The choice isn't just about currency, it's about two models of partnership. Gulf nations now pick elements from both, shaping their own future. Experts agree, the dollar isn't collapsing, but the landscape has changed. Even a slow shift away from the dollar in oil trade could erode its reserve status and raise US debt costs. Gulf officials frame their moves as pragmatic, not anti-American, broadening partnerships to secure long-term prosperity. The US response leverages its tech edge, arguing that while China can buy oil, only America can deliver a knowledge-based economy. Gulf states are maximizing their advantage, deepening tech ties with the US, while preserving trade with China. The era of fixed alliances is over. Now, it's about flexible, issue-based coalitions. Diplomacy must become more sophisticated in this new environment. The world has entered a grand bazaar, where everyone seeks the best deal. We stand at a crossroads. Saudi Arabia and Qatar's BRICS move and yuan oil trade have cracked a 50-year-old order, while US tech investment shores it up. The petrodollar isn't dead, but it's no longer absolute. We now face a world of currency competition and strategic codependence, with the script being written in Riyadh, Beijing, and Silicon Valley. The future may see a split multipolar commodity trade with the yuan rising, and US dominance in tech and finance. Nations must balance resource trade with technological ambitions. These shifts will affect everyone from prices at home to jobs and social services. The call is for awareness and adaptation, not panic. Understanding this new reality is essential for global stability and prosperity. The story of the 21st century is just beginning.